Sarah Martinez stood at the edge of the university track, her worn-out sneakers barely holding together after months of training. The morning mist clung to the ground as she watched the varsity team warm up in their crisp uniforms and expensive running gear. At 19, she had never imagined she would be here, trying out for one of the most competitive track programs in the state. Growing up in a small farming town, Sarah's athletic dreams seemed impossible. Her family struggled to make ends meet, and her father worked double shifts at the local factory while her mother cleaned offices at night. Sports were considered a luxury they couldn't afford. While other kids joined little league teams and attended summer camps, Sarah helped tend to their small vegetable garden and watched her younger siblings. The first time Sarah discovered her talent for running was purely by accident. During her sophomore year of high school, she missed the school bus and had to run the 3 miles home. What should have been an exhausting journey felt surprisingly natural. Her legs moved with an effortless rhythm, and her breathing remained steady even as she climbed the steep hills leading to her house. When she arrived home, barely winded, her mother stared in amazement. Her high school didn't have a track team due to budget cuts, but her English teacher, Mrs. Peterson, noticed something special about Sarah. She had observed how Sarah always arrived at school energized despite living the farthest away, and how she never seemed tired during physical education classes. Mrs. Peterson had been a runner in college and recognized the signs of natural talent. One afternoon, Mrs. Peterson approached Sarah with a proposal that would change everything. She offered to time Sarah's runs and help her train using online resources and borrowed equipment. They would meet before school started, using the empty hallways and the small gymnasium for workouts. It wasn't ideal, but it was a beginning. The training sessions were challenging but exciting. Sarah learned about proper form, breathing techniques, and the importance of building endurance gradually. Mrs. Peterson borrowed stopwatches from the science department and created makeshift training plans based on professional programs she found online. They measured distances using a bicycle odometer, marking courses around the school property. Word of Sarah's unusual training routine spread among the faculty, and soon other teachers began offering support. The math teacher helped calculate split times and pace charts, while the science teacher explained the physiology of running. Even the janitor, Mr. Rodriguez, began unlocking the gym early so Sarah could train during bad weather. As months passed, Sarah's times improved dramatically. What started as casual encouragement from Mrs. Peterson evolved into serious discussions about Sarah's potential. The teacher reached out to contacts from her college days, seeking advice about how a small-town girl with no formal training could pursue competitive running. Sarah's family initially worried that running was distracting her from more practical concerns. Her father questioned whether she should focus on getting a job after graduation instead of chasing what seemed like an impossible dream. Her mother supported her, but worried about the costs of pursuing athletics at a higher level. The breakthrough came when Mrs. Peterson arranged for a college scout to time Sarah during an informal meet they organized. Using the school's football field, they marked out distances and invited a few teachers to serve as officials. Sarah had never run with proper timing equipment or on a measured track, but her performance that day opened doors she never knew existed. The scout, impressed by Sarah's raw talent and determination, mentioned her to coaches at several universities. Phone calls followed, and suddenly Sarah found herself being recruited by schools she had only dreamed of attending. The possibility of a scholarship became real, offering not just the chance to run competitively but also to receive an education her family could never afford. Now, standing at this prestigious university track, Sarah felt the weight of everyone's expectations. The other runners looked polished and confident, warming up with precise routines clearly developed through years of professional coaching. Their conversations were filled with technical terms and references to races and training camps Sarah had never experienced. Coach Williams approached the group of potential walk-ons, his expression serious and evaluating. He had built this program into a national powerhouse, and his standards were notoriously high. Sarah clutched the paperwork that would officially make her a candidate for the team, knowing that her entire future might depend on what happened in the next few hours. The other candidates stretched nearby, and Sarah overheard snippets of their conversations about personal trainers, specialized diets, and expensive equipment. Some had been running competitively since middle school, with trophy cases and newspaper clippings documenting their achievements. Sarah's only proof of ability was a handwritten log of times recorded by her high school teacher. As the coach called the group together for initial instructions, Sarah took a deep breath and reminded herself of all the early morning training sessions, all the miles run on country roads, and all the people who believed in her potential. She might not have the same background as the others, but she had something equally valuable, an unshakable determination to prove that talent and hard work could overcome any disadvantage. The real test was about to begin, and Sarah Martinez was ready to show everyone what a small-town girl with big dreams could accomplish. The first training session nearly broke Sarah's confidence completely. Coach Williams divided the walk-on candidates into groups based on their reported times, and Sarah found herself placed with runners whose personal records were significantly faster than anything she had ever achieved. The warm-up alone revealed the vast gap between her small-town preparation and collegiate-level athletics. As the team began their stretching routine, Sarah struggled to keep up with the complex movements and precise techniques the others performed automatically. Every stretch seemed to have a specific purpose and timing that she had never learned. The other runners moved through their routines with the fluid confidence of athletes who had been coached since childhood, while Sarah awkwardly attempted to mimic their movements. The assistant coach, Jessica Thompson, noticed Sarah's confusion and approached with what seemed like genuine concern. However, her questions quickly revealed the depth of Sarah's inexperience. When asked about her training regimen, Sarah mentioned running on country roads and using the high school gym. The assistant coach's expression shifted from interest to barely concealed skepticism. During the first speed workout, the differences became even more apparent. The track featured precise lane markings, electronic timing systems, and equipment Sarah had only seen on television. Other runners discussed complex training concepts like lactate threshold, negative splits, and periodization with casual familiarity. Sarah realized she was not just competing against talented athletes, but against years of professional knowledge and experience. The workout consisted of repeated 800-meter runs at specific paces, with exact rest intervals calculated to optimize training benefits. Sarah had never run measured distances with such precision, and she struggled to maintain the required pace while running in lanes with other competitors. Her form deteriorated quickly, and she found herself falling behind despite her best efforts. After the session, several established team members approached Sarah with what appeared to be friendly curiosity. Their questions seemed innocent enough, but the underlying message was clear. They wanted to understand how someone with her limited background had earned a tryout. Some were genuinely supportive, offering advice about technique and training methods. Others seemed more interested in confirming their suspicions that she didn't belong. The social dynamics of the team proved as challenging as the physical demands. Many of her teammates had attended the same elite training camps, competed against each other in high school, and shared common experiences Sarah could never relate to. Their conversations centered around races, coaches, and programs she had never heard of, creating an invisible barrier that seemed impossible to cross. Sarah's living situation added another layer of difficulty. While most team members lived in comfortable dorms or off-campus apartments, she squeezed into a tiny shared room with 3 other scholarship students. Her roommates were understanding but had their own academic pressures, leaving Sarah little space to rest and recover between training sessions. Financial pressures constantly reminded Sarah of her different circumstances. While teammates casually discussed new running shoes, recovery treatments, and specialized nutrition plans, she carefully rationed her meal plan and wore the same training clothes until they fell apart. The university's athletic department provided some equipment, but many items considered essential by serious runners were personal expenses she couldn't afford. Despite these challenges, Sarah's natural talent began to emerge during longer training runs. Her endurance and mental toughness, developed through years of running alone on difficult terrain, proved advantageous when workouts became extremely demanding. She discovered she could maintain pace when others began to struggle, drawing on reserves of determination that surprised even Coach Williams. The breakthrough moment came during a particularly brutal training session designed to test mental fortitude as much as physical ability. The workout consisted of continuous running at varying paces for over an hour, with no predetermined endpoint. Coach Williams would call out pace changes and distance extensions until runners began dropping out from exhaustion or inability to maintain the required speed. One by one, Even experienced team members began stepping off the track as the workout extended beyond normal limits. Sarah found herself running alongside athletes she had previously considered far superior, matching their pace and showing no signs of the fatigue that was overwhelming others. Her country road training, where she had learned to push through discomfort without the luxury of precise distance markers or predetermined rest stops, had prepared her for exactly this type of challenge. As the group continued to shrink, Sarah realized she was still running strongly, while several highly recruited athletes had already stopped. Her form remained steady, her breathing controlled, and her focus unwavering. For the first time since arriving on campus, she felt like she belonged with these elite competitors. Coach Williams watched intently as the workout continued, taking notes and occasionally glancing at Sarah with increased interest. The assistant coach, who had initially seemed doubtful about Sarah's potential, began timing her splits more carefully and offering technical corrections to help improve her efficiency. When the session finally ended, Sarah had outlasted more than half the group, including several returning varsity athletes. Her time for the final segments matched or exceeded many of the more experienced runners, and her recovery seemed remarkably quick compared to others who were still struggling to catch their breath. The other runners' attitudes towards Sarah began to shift subtly after that workout. While some remained skeptical, others started including her in conversations and offering genuine advice about training and racing strategy. She had proven she belonged on the track, even if her path there had been unconventional. That evening, Sarah called home to share her first positive update since arriving at the university. Her parents listened with pride and amazement as she described keeping up with nationally ranked runners and earning respect through sheer determination. For the first time, her father seemed to believe that her running dreams might actually lead somewhere meaningful. 3 weeks into official training, Sarah faced her first major setback when she suffered a stress fracture in her left foot. The injury occurred during a routine training run, but the pain was immediate and severe. She had never experienced a running-related injury before, and initially tried to push through the discomfort, not wanting to appear weak or uncommitted to the coaching staff. The team trainer, Marcus Chen, immediately recognized the signs of a stress fracture and ordered X-rays that confirmed his suspicions. The injury would require complete rest from running for at least 6 weeks, followed by a gradual return to training. For an athlete trying to prove herself worthy of a scholarship, this timing couldn't have been worse. Sarah's teammates offered sympathy, but she couldn't shake the feeling that some secretly welcomed her forced absence from competition. The injury occurred just as she was beginning to establish herself as a serious contender for varsity positions, and she worried that 6 weeks away would erase all her progress and momentum. The financial implications of the injury added significant stress to an already difficult situation. Sarah couldn't afford specialized treatment or recovery methods that other athletes used routinely. While teammates visited sports medicine specialists, received massage therapy, and used expensive recovery equipment, Sarah relied on basic physical therapy exercises and over-the-counter pain medication. During her recovery period, Sarah maintained her fitness through swimming and stationary bike workouts, but watching her teammates continue training while she was sidelined was emotionally exhausting. She attended every practice session, taking notes and observing technique, but felt increasingly disconnected from the team's daily rhythm and social dynamics. Coach Williams remained supportive but realistic about Sarah's situation. He explained that missing crucial early season training would significantly impact her competitive development and scholarship opportunities. Other walk-on candidates were making steady progress, and the coaching staff had limited roster spots available for unproven athletes. The darkest moment came when Sarah overheard 2 assistant coaches discussing roster decisions for the upcoming season. They mentioned her injury as a complicating factor in evaluating her potential contribution to the team. One coach suggested that her lack of formal training background, combined with the injury setback, might indicate she wasn't prepared for the demands of collegiate athletics. Sarah's confidence plummeted as she began questioning whether her dream of competing at this level was realistic. The other walk-on candidates continued improving while she remained stuck in rehabilitation, watching her opportunities slip away. She considered transferring to a smaller school with less competitive demands, or abandoning running altogether to focus entirely on academics. Her family provided emotional support during phone calls, but they couldn't fully understand the competitive pressures and financial realities she faced. Her father suggested she might be pushing herself too hard, while her mother worried about the long-term health implications of her injury. Their concerns, though well-intentioned, added to Sarah's doubts about continuing her athletic pursuits. The turning point came when Mrs. Peterson, her former high school teacher, made an unexpected visit to campus. She had driven 4 hours to check on Sarah after sensing her discouragement. During their recent phone conversations, Mrs. Peterson reminded Sarah of how far she had already come and encouraged her to view the injury as a temporary setback rather than a permanent barrier. During their conversation, Mrs. Peterson helped Sarah recognize that her unique background actually provided advantages other athletes didn't possess. Her mental toughness, developed through years of training without support or fancy equipment, was something that couldn't be taught or purchased. The injury would heal, but her determination and natural talent would remain intact. Mrs. Peterson also connected Sarah with a local physical therapist who had experience working with college athletes. The therapist offered reduced-rate treatment in exchange for help with office administration, allowing Sarah to receive professional care while managing her limited budget. This arrangement provided both better rehabilitation and valuable learning experience about sports medicine. As her foot began healing, Sarah developed a more comprehensive understanding of training methodology through extensive research and conversations with the team's medical staff. She studied exercise physiology, nutrition, and injury prevention with the same intensity she had once applied to her high school academics. This knowledge would prove invaluable when she returned to active training. The rehabilitation process also revealed the importance of cross-training and recovery in athletic development. Sarah discovered swimming and cycling abilities she hadn't known she possessed, developing new sources of cardiovascular fitness that would complement her running when she returned. Her core strength and flexibility improved significantly during the forced break from running. 6 weeks after the injury, medical tests confirmed that her foot had healed completely, and she was cleared to resume gradual running activities. The team was midway through their competitive season, and Sarah faced the challenge of rebuilding her fitness while others were at peak performance levels. However, her attitude had transformed from desperation to determined patience. Her first run back was only 20 minutes at an easy pace, but Sarah felt overwhelming gratitude for the simple ability to move without pain. Each subsequent workout brought small improvements in strength and confidence. She approached her return with scientific precision, carefully monitoring her body's responses and avoiding the over-enthusiastic training that had contributed to her original injury. The coaching staff noticed Sarah's more mature approach to training when she returned. Her questions were more sophisticated, her training logs more detailed, and her communication about how she felt more precise. The injury had forced her to develop a deeper understanding of her body and the training process, making her a smarter athlete overall. Most importantly, Sarah's period of enforced observation had revealed which teammates were genuine supporters versus those who saw her as competition to be eliminated. She returned to training with a clearer understanding of team dynamics and a stronger sense of who she could trust for advice and encouragement. Sarah's return to full training coincided with the start of indoor track season, presenting her with the first opportunity to compete officially for the university. However, her fitness level remained well below where it had been before the injury, and she faced the daunting prospect of trying to qualify for meets while still rebuilding her base conditioning. Coach Williams offered Sarah a chance to compete in smaller, local meets to help regain her competitive edge before attempting to qualify for major competitions. These meets featured athletes from various skill levels, providing less intimidating environments for her comeback. Sarah gratefully accepted, understanding that she needed to rebuild both her physical capabilities and her racing confidence. Her first race back was a 3,000-meter event at a small indoor facility 2 hours from campus. The competition included club runners, high school athletes, and a few collegiate competitors from smaller programs. Sarah's goal was simply to complete the race and establish a baseline time for measuring her progress. The race began conservatively, with Sarah positioning herself near the back of the field to avoid the pressure of early pacemaking. Her foot felt strong and pain-free, but her cardiovascular system struggled more than expected with the sustained effort. Months of limited training had significantly reduced her racing fitness, and she found herself working harder than usual to maintain contact with the lead group. As the race progressed, Sarah's natural tactical instincts began emerging. Her experience running alone on country roads had taught her to judge effort levels accurately and distribute energy efficiently over long distances. While other runners surged and faded unpredictably, Sarah maintained a steady rhythm that gradually moved her through the field. With 800 meters remaining, Sarah found herself in a position she hadn't expected, competing for the win. Her patient approach had conserved energy, while others exhausted themselves in early moves, and her endurance base proved more solid than she had realized. The small crowd, primarily family members and coaches, began taking notice of the unknown runner moving steadily toward the front. The final 400 meters revealed the mental toughness Sarah had developed through her challenging journey. While other runners showed signs of fatigue and doubt, she maintained her focus and continued pressing forward. Her form remained steady, and her confidence grew with each stride as she realized she was capable of competing successfully, even while still recovering from injury. Sarah crossed the finish line in second place, with a time that surprised everyone, including herself. The performance was only seconds slower than her personal best from before the injury, suggesting that her fitness had returned more quickly than anyone anticipated. More importantly, she had rediscovered her love of competition and proven to herself that her goals remained achievable. The race results attracted attention from Coach Williams, who had been monitoring Sarah's progress, but hadn't expected such a strong performance so soon after her return. He began including her in more serious discussions about training plans and competition schedules, treating her as a legitimate contender rather than a developing project. Sarah's teammates also took notice of her comeback performance, with several offering congratulations and expressing surprise at how quickly she had regained competitive form. The injury period had actually enhanced her reputation among those who understood how difficult it was to return from forced time off, demonstrating resilience that couldn't be taught or purchased. The success of her first race back motivated Sarah to approach training with renewed intensity and focus. She had proven to herself that her natural talent remained intact despite the setback, and she began setting more ambitious goals for the remainder of the season. However, she also maintained the careful approach to injury prevention that her rehabilitation period had taught her. Over the following weeks, Sarah competed in several more local meets, steadily improving her times and gaining valuable racing experience. Each competition taught her something new about tactics, pacing, and mental preparation. She began studying videos of elite races, analyzing strategy and technique. With the same methodical approach she had applied to her rehabilitation, the breakthrough performance came at a regional indoor meet, featuring strong collegiate competition from across the state. Sarah entered the 5,000-meter race, her first attempt at the distance since returning from injury. The field included several nationally ranked athletes and school record holders, making her entry seem optimistic at best. Unlike her previous races, Sarah found herself running from behind throughout most of the competition. The pace was significantly faster than anything she had experienced, and the tactical complexity exceeded her limited racing background. For the first half of the race, she struggled to maintain contact with the lead group and began doubting whether she belonged in such elite company. However, as the race entered its final third, Sarah's superior endurance training began paying dividends. While other runners showed signs of the fast early pace, she maintained her rhythm and actually felt stronger as the distance increased. Her patient approach to rebuilding fitness had created a solid foundation that could handle the sustained demands of championship-level racing. With 1,000 meters remaining, Sarah made the boldest move of her racing career. Instead of waiting for others to initiate the decisive surge, she moved to the front of the pack and began steadily increasing the pace. Her competitors initially appeared unconcerned, expecting her to fade quickly. But Sarah's tempo proved sustainable and relentless. The final 600 meters transformed into a battle of wills between Sarah and two nationally ranked athletes who had dominated collegiate distance running in their region. Neither had expected serious competition from an unknown walk-on, but Sarah's continuing acceleration forced them to respond earlier than they had planned. As they entered the final turn, Sarah held a slight lead over both experienced competitors. The crowd, which had been politely appreciating a well-run race, suddenly realized they were witnessing something special. Coaches from other schools began asking about the unknown runner who was challenging established stars. The final, straightaway became a testament to everything Sarah had learned about perseverance and self-belief. Her form remained strong while her competitors showed signs of strain, and her confidence grew with each step toward the finish line. She had transformed from an uncertain comeback athlete into a legitimate threat to win a major race. Sarah crossed the finish line with a time that shattered her personal best and established her as one of the top collegiate distance runners in the region. The electronic display showed 16:42.18 for 5,000 meters, a mark that qualified her for national championship consideration and earned automatic entry into major upcoming competitions. The crowd erupted in appreciation for a race that had exceeded everyone's expectations. Her two competitors, both of whom had entered the race expecting routine victories, offered genuine congratulations while struggling to process what had just occurred. They had been outrun by someone they had never heard of, who had appeared to grow stronger as the race progressed. Local media immediately sought interviews with the unknown athlete who had just announced herself as a serious contender. Coach Williams watched the finish with barely contained excitement, realizing that his program had discovered a potential star hiding among the walk-on candidates. Sarah's time ranked among the best in school history, and suggested she might be capable of even greater achievements with proper development and support. The injury setback that had seemed so devastating now appeared to be a minor detour in a journey toward major success. The victory transformed Sarah's status within the team overnight. Teammates who had previously seen her as an interesting project now viewed her as a legitimate threat for varsity positions and scholarship opportunities. Some welcomed her emergence with genuine enthusiasm, while others struggled to adjust their expectations about team hierarchy and competition for resources. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly. In the hours following the race, as news of her performance spread through social media and running websites, her former teacher, Mrs. Peterson, called with tears of joy and pride, having followed the race results online from her small farming town. Sarah's parents, who had never fully understood the significance of running times, began to grasp that their daughter had accomplished something truly remarkable. The athletic department immediately began discussions about adjusting Sarah's financial aid package, recognizing that her performance had created leverage in scholarship negotiations with other schools. Her academic advisor suggested they review her course schedule to ensure she could balance increased training demands with her educational goals. For the first time since arriving on campus, Sarah felt like her dual identity as student and athlete was being taken seriously. However, success brought new pressures and challenges Sarah hadn't anticipated. Her training schedule intensified significantly as Coach Williams designed programs to capitalize on her breakthrough performance. The workouts became more sophisticated and demanding, requiring technical skills and recovery methods she was still learning to master. Media attention also created unexpected complications in Sarah's previously private training environment. Local newspapers wanted feature stories about the small-town athlete making waves at the collegiate level, while running magazines sought to understand her unconventional path to success. Sarah struggled with the transition from anonymous competitor to public figure, feeling unprepared for the scrutiny that accompanied athletic achievement. The financial benefits of her improved status helped tremendously with practical concerns but created new social dynamics within her living situation. Her roommates, while supportive, began treating her differently once they realized she was becoming a local celebrity. Some seemed genuinely excited about her success, while others appeared slightly resentful of her changed circumstances. Sarah's relationship with her family also evolved as her running career gained significance beyond personal fulfillment. Her parents began attending races when possible, driving long distances to witness competitions they were finally beginning to understand. Her younger siblings bragged about their famous sister to friends, creating both pride and pressure for Sarah to continue succeeding. The most significant challenge came when Sarah qualified for her first major national competition, an indoor championship featuring the best collegiate distance runners in the country. The meet would be held at a prestigious venue with television coverage and professional timing systems. Sarah had never competed in such an environment, and the prospect was both thrilling and intimidating. Preparation for the national meet required a level of precision and attention to detail that exceeded anything Sarah had previously experienced. Every aspect of her training, nutrition, sleep schedule, and recovery became carefully monitored and optimized. She worked with sports psychology, specialist to develop mental preparation techniques for handling high-pressure competition. The technical aspects of racing at the national level also demanded rapid learning and adaptation. Sarah studied race videos extensively, analyzing tactical patterns and strategic decisions used by elite competitors. She practiced specific racing scenarios during training, preparing for various competitive situations she might encounter. Her teammates' reactions to her national qualification were mixed, reflecting the complex emotions that arise when someone rapidly ascends through team rankings. Veteran athletes who had worked years to earn similar opportunities now found themselves competing with someone who had emerged seemingly overnight. Some offered valuable advice and mentorship, while others maintained professional distance. Coach Williams balanced his excitement about Sarah's potential with realistic expectations about her readiness for elite competition. He emphasized that her primary goal should be gaining experience rather than achieving specific results, understanding that premature pressure could harm her long-term development. However, Sarah's competitive instincts made it difficult to approach any race without serious intentions to succeed. The week before the national meet, Sarah returned to her hometown for a brief visit that helped her maintain perspective on her rapidly changing circumstances. Walking through familiar streets and visiting her old high school reminded her of how far she had traveled, both literally and figuratively, from her humble beginnings. The community's pride in her achievements provided emotional strength for the challenges ahead. Mrs. Peterson organized a small send-off gathering at the high school, inviting faculty and community members who had supported Sarah's early development. The informal ceremony included presentations of her race photos and newspaper clippings, creating a visual record of her journey from unknown small-town runner to nationally competitive athlete. As Sarah prepared to leave for the national championship, she carried with her not just improved fitness and racing skills, but also a deeper understanding of her own capabilities and limitations. The journey from walk-on candidate to national qualifier had taught her that success required both natural talent and intelligent preparation. But most importantly, the courage to compete without fear of failure. The national championship meet took place in a massive indoor facility that dwarfed any venue Sarah had previously competed in. The warm-up track alone was larger than many entire facilities she was accustomed to, and the sophisticated timing and scoring systems created an atmosphere of professional precision that was both inspiring and nerve-wracking. Sarah's event, the 5,000 meters, was scheduled for the final day of competition, giving her time to observe other races and acclimate to the championship environment. She watched preliminary rounds and finals in other distances, studying how elite athletes handled the pressure and tactical complexity of national-level competition. The quality of performance was extraordinary, with multiple collegiate records being broken throughout the meet. The field for Sarah's race included defending champions, school record holders, and internationally experienced athletes who had represented their countries in major competitions. Many had been recruited specifically for their proven ability at this level, making Sarah's presence as a virtual unknown particularly notable. Pre-race media coverage focused primarily on established stars, with Sarah receiving only brief mentions as an interesting newcomer. During the pre-race warm-up period, Sarah maintained the routines that had served her well throughout the season, avoiding the temptation to dramatically alter her preparation for this bigger stage. She focused on staying relaxed and confident, drawing strength from the knowledge that she had already exceeded everyone's expectations simply by qualifying for the meet. The call room, where athletes gathered before being escorted to the starting line, was filled with nervous energy as competitors engaged in final mental preparation. Sarah found herself surrounded by athletes she had only read about in running magazines, some of whom had achieved international recognition for their performances. The atmosphere was professional and focused, with little of the casual conversation typical of smaller meets. As the athletes were introduced to the crowd, Sarah experienced a moment of overwhelming emotion hearing her name announced in the same facility where many Olympic champions had competed. The crowd's response was polite but reserved, as most spectators were unfamiliar with her recent emergence in collegiate running. She represented not just herself but also everyone who had believed in her potential when others had doubts. The race began at a conservative pace, with established favorites content to let others control the early rhythm while they positioned themselves for later moves. Sarah settled into the large field comfortably, using her tactical intelligence to maintain good position without expending unnecessary energy. Her experience running alone had taught her patience that many of her more accomplished competitors seemed to lack. The first mile split was relatively slow by championship standards, creating anticipation for the tactical battle that would inevitably develop in the later stages. Sarah felt comfortable and relaxed, surprised by how manageable the pace seemed despite the prestigious competition. Her training with Coach Williams had prepared her well for the sustained tempo that elite racing required. As the race approached the halfway point, several athletes began testing the field with subtle pace increases, designed to identify weaknesses and eliminate less prepared competitors. Sarah responded smoothly to each surge, maintaining her position while carefully monitoring her effort level. She had learned to trust her fitness and tactical instincts, avoiding the panic that might cause less experienced runners to overreact. The crucial move came with 1,200 meters remaining when the defending champion initiated a sustained drive toward the front. The pace increase was significant but not devastating, designed to separate contenders from competitors without completely emptying anyone's reserves for the final sprint. Sarah found herself naturally moving with the lead group, feeling strong and confident. With 800 meters to go, Sarah faced the moment that would define her entire journey from small-town dreamer to national competitor. She could continue racing conservatively and likely finish respectably in the middle of the field, or she could risk everything by challenging for a top finish against athletes with superior credentials and experience. Drawing upon every lesson learned from her unconventional path to this moment, Sarah made the decision that would silence her remaining skeptics forever. Instead of waiting for others to initiate the decisive move, she accelerated smoothly to the front of the field and began controlling the pace herself. The crowd reacted with surprise and excitement as the unknown challenger took command of the race. Her competitors initially appeared unconcerned, expecting Sarah to fade under the pressure of leading such elite competition. However, her pace proved both sustainable and relentlessly honest, forcing established stars to work harder than they had anticipated. With each passing 100 meters, it became clear that Sarah's bold move was not a desperate gamble, but a calculated strategy based on superior fitness. The final 400 meters became a testament to every mile. Sarah had run on country roads, every early morning training session, and every moment of doubt she had overcome through sheer determination. Her form remained smooth and powerful, while several highly regarded competitors began showing signs of strain. The crowd rose to its feet, recognizing they were witnessing something extraordinary. As Sarah entered the final straightaway, still leading with 200 meters to go, the impossible suddenly seemed inevitable. Her stride remained strong and confident, while the field behind her struggled to match her relentless pace. Coaches from other programs watched in amazement as their carefully recruited stars found themselves chasing an athlete they had never heard of 6 months earlier. Sarah crossed the finish line as the national champion, winning by a margin that left no doubt about the superiority of her performance. The time, 15:38:42, established a new collegiate record and ranked among the fastest ever run by an American woman. The crowd erupted in appreciation for a victory that had transformed a routine championship into an unforgettable moment of athletic achievement. In that moment, 4,020 yards after beginning a race that would define her career, Sarah Martinez had silenced every skeptic and doubter who had questioned whether a small-town girl with unconventional preparation could compete with the best collegiate athletes in the nation. She had proven that talent, determination, and intelligent preparation could overcome any disadvantage, inspiring countless others to pursue their own seemingly impossible dreams.